My name is Susan Cadillac. We are in Burlington, Mass. I have been in real estate since 2002, so 23 years. I'm one of those old agents who's like, I've been doing this for 20 years. That's me. I'm the Mass State broker for for Mass and New Hampshire. I have always been in construction. My dad was a builder, grandfather was a builder. So I grew up around construction. So for me, it was kind of a natural thing to get into the flipping and the building. I did a couple flips before the Great Recession back in 2005 and 6. And then, of course, the market tanked and everything was in the toilet. Not a great time to be doing flips. So stopped for a little bit. But like I said, I've always been in construction. So even through that time, through the recession, we were still doing construction jobs, still taking construction jobs from clients. We still do. And then around, 2013, 14, we're seeing the market starting to turn. We're seeing houses are being flipped. And my husband was like, why aren't we flipping houses? Why aren't we doing this? And being contractors, we're looking at some of the work that was being done. And even still today, you look at it and you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that these guys are getting away with this kind of work. We can totally do this. Everybody knows when you see a flip, right? Everybody knows a flipper who doesn't have a great reputation, that, they're doing work that isn't great. And we knew that we would never do that. And so he was pushing me, and I got a call one day it was actually a referral from an old client in 2014, wanted to sell his mom's house and had no flooring. It smelled like cat pee. It was absolutely disgusting. And my husband was like, we need to buy this. And I was like, I don't know. But he really was kind of pushing me. And we bought that at that time for $165,000. Compared to the last house we just bought for $835,000. So market's a little bit different now than it was back then. And at that time we bought it for $165,000, sold it for $475,000. And I think we made like $80,000 or $90,000 on that first flip. So that was a good start. And the reason why we started, our kids were young, they were 1 and 3. And we were always like, what if something happened to us? We want to make sure we have enough money to pay off the mortgage. We want to, because as you're working, you're spending money, and this was kind of another separate income that we could keep separate, save some money. And it's like, what's your plan B? It's something that I've watched my grandfather do. I watched my father do it. My grandfather died when he was in his 50s. And he left so many rental properties. My grandmother never had to work again. And now she's in her 90s and still has never had to work. So seeing that, thinking about, what's the reason you want to do it? Or do you want to help clients do it? Do you want to be that agent that a client can go to and say, hey, I want to flip a house. Tell me how to do this. How do I get started? And a lot of people are interested, right? A lot of people are interested in flipping. Has anyone done any flips, by the way? Anybody here? Anne, how many have you done?
I did 4.
You did 4. When's the last one that you did?
The last one I sold was January of this year. I did it last year.
Nice. And you're doing just flipping, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Susan. I have a question for you, Susan.
Sure.
I am a first-time investor in real estate this year. I came fortunately across some very nice inheritance funds. Do you recommend doing all cash I'm going to do a small deal, or doing a finance with a lot down for that situation I'm in?
Depends on how much cash you have and what. I feel like there's an echo. Is that echoing? Can you guys hear the echo? Or is it just me? You can.
Echo.
Is it gone?
Is there an echo still?
Okay, I think it's gone now. So somebody might be near another device and it's echoing. So I would say it depends on how much cash you have and depends on the project, because during every construction project, there's going to be surprises. So you want to make sure that you have cash on hand to cover unexpected expenses. I always say use the bank's money if you can. So I'll get into a little bit of the different types of financing, because there are different types of financing that different people use. Some cost more. Some, if you're going to do hard money, you're going to have a higher interest rate. Whereas if you do a bank, you're going to have a lower interest rate. So it's really going to depend on the project size and how you finance it. So there's kind of three pieces to it. There's assessing the property. When you find a property, assessing it and sort of buying right. Because if you pay too much for a property, you're almost never going to make that up in construction. When the market was going like this, you would sometimes see people get away with it because when they bought the property, maybe the resale value was here, but the market sort of covered their mistakes. The market was going up, and it would cover the gap, and they would maybe still make a profit. But when the market is the way it is right now, you have to be better at identifying properties, having a realistic construction budget, knowing what you could potentially run into. And this is all skill that you build as you do it. And then the second piece is going to be capital to invest. Like someone just mentioned, they came into an inheritance. That's a great place to start. But if you're a first-time investor, I would say no matter how much money you have, I would make sure that you're partnering with people who know what they're doing, even if you lose some profit, because you can lose money in the execution. You can lose money in so many ways, even if you buy right and you got the property for a good deal and the numbers seem to work out, you can lose money in the execution in a bunch of different ways. So starting off looking at the property, for us, we already knew about construction costs and codes and real estate values. So we had that advantage, and everyone here has that advantage that they can look at a property and know, okay, on the other side, what is it going to be worth if you do these certain improvements? But if you're not as familiar with the construction costs, you either want to get a partner or make some contacts so that you're not underestimating what you need to do. You also need somebody who knows the codes, depending on what state you're in. I mean, we're in Massachusetts, so everything you do triggers something else. Everything just gets more and more expensive. So you want to know those things. So for example, here in Massachusetts, the property that I just bought for $835, it was built in 1900. So in Massachusetts, if you got more than 50% of a home, you have to bring the entire home up to new construction energy code. That's not happening in a 1900 house. So we have to be very selective in the amount of demo that we do, because otherwise I know that I'm going to trigger a code that's going to be very expensive to meet. And those are the types of things that when you're looking at what can we do to this property, knowing what you could potentially run into, what's possible, and what could be an issue. So networking with contractors. If you see homes that are being flipped, looking at back what the numbers are. What did they pay for it? What did they sell it for? Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call the other agent and ask them questions. A lot of times they'll tell you, oh, this is what we spent, this is what we made, or we ran into this problem and actually we lost money, or we overpaid for it. So those are things you really need to learn the costs. And you can work with, as an agent, if another way to learn, for a very long time, I had a client, his partner ended up making some bad deals and they ended up separating, but I had a client, he was an investor, and all I would do for him is look at properties and send him numbers and say, hey, I looked at this property, here's your number. So we would always start with what's the resale number going to be. So for this one that I just bought, we know with the construction that we want to do to it, the resale value is going to be $1.8 million. What's our construction cost going to be? So we deduct that off the 1.8. We're looking at $600,000 for construction costs. Then we're counting what's the closing cost, commission, soft costs. Even if you're in it as a realtor and you may not be taking a commission, you still want to account for it. Because if the deal doesn't work because of the commission, then the deal doesn't work. It's too close. It's too tight. So whether you're taking a commission or not, you want to count that. So that was another $120,000. And then profit on that type of project, we want to look at about $250,000. So that's going to give us, once we deduct all those costs off the resale, that's going to give us what's the maximum amount we can offer. What's the maximum amount we can pay for this property, still have some wiggle room, still know that we can make a profit at the end of the day. And for that particular project, we paid $835,000. But we're always running knowing your numbers. Is this deal a good deal or not? And you can do this for yourself. If you're flipping, you can do this for clients. If you have an investor and you're good at running numbers and you get to build this skill and they're making money with properties that you're bringing them, they're going to keep coming back to you. And as a real estate agent, that's a great lead source for both. Obviously, they're buying properties and they're listing properties, and you're not in competition. You don't have to go to a CMA every time. You've already got the sale and the listing at the beginning. Sometimes my client would even buy properties online on auctions, and he would call me and say, hey, there's a commission check coming. I put you in as the agent, even though I had no idea what he was doing. So building those types of relationships with investors too, before you invest your own money, sometimes watching from the sidelines and seeing what they're doing and watching the process, you kind of get a front row seat as a real estate agent. That's another great way to learn the skill and build a business and help people make money, help yourself build up capital to maybe invest. And just, you really have to go through that learning process and be open to it if you don't know what the construction costs are, because you can really mess up a deal by underestimating construction or underestimating what needs to be done. Getting capital. When we first started, we saved $30,000. We thought we were rich. We were like, this is great. We have $30,000. We had that deal for $165,000. We got it under agreement. We went to the bank and they were like, oh, you need $100,000. And we were like, oh, crap, we don't have $100,000. What are we going to do now? Luckily, it was 2014. The market was getting better, but not that great. So our seller was like, take as long as you want, however much time you want. I don't even know how much time it took us. I think when I looked back, it took us about 4 months to figure out the financing. And we ended up bringing partners in. And we ended up bringing 2 other partners in. Everybody put money in. And then we split the profits at the end. So you can bring other partners in. One of the partners was just a financial partner. Another partner was another contractor that we knew. And again, no matter how much money you have of your own, if there's a skill gap on the team, if there's some skill that you don't have, if you have a contractor as a partner and you don't really know the construction as much, them being invested in the project, they're gonna make good decisions. Because they want the project to make money too. So bring in investor partners when the deal makes sense. When you find a deal where you can make money, you can always find investors. And the more projects you do, the more and the bigger track record you have, people are going to start coming to you and asking you, hey, can I invest with you? Hey, do you need money? Hey, I have $100,000. I want to invest. Can you do something with it? So building your track record to that point, at a certain point, the money's not an issue, even if people will just come to you. And sometimes even if you don't need it, it's not a bad idea to take it because you can do more projects with more capital. Deciding how you're going to finance. A lot of investors use hard money. We never have. When I did my first flip, it was actually another client who was a builder. And he said, never use hard money. Go to the local bank. They will give you the best rate. So that's what we've always done. Sometimes people use hard money because maybe the credit isn't as good. Maybe they don't have the down payment. Maybe they have too many projects going on. With hard money, you have more flexibility. They'll let you borrow more than a bank will. So it's just going to depend on the project and make the decision on what makes sense. You have to be able to show the numbers either to the bank or to the hard money lender or to the investor, to whoever you're asking for money to invest. You have to be able to show them this is what we're looking at for profit. Any project we do, we're running those numbers, starting at the resale number, taking out the construction, the closing costs, the soft costs, the commission, the profit. What do those numbers look like so that we can project where we're going to land at the end? Use your real estate sales to find deals, reinvest your capital. Once you start making money, I think for the first 3 years that we flipped houses, we didn't take any money out. We just kept rolling it back in. And then after we were like, we think we're making money, but we haven't seen it because we literally would just go from one closing to the next and everything would go. And we would take every penny from one and put it into the other because we wanted to work our way to no partners. Because partners, as they say, partners are for dancing. Can I swear on this, Nazar? Do you guys swear on this call?
That's funny. Can I touch base on partners subject. Did you put together a business agreement, have lawyers to lay out the rules and the agreements with all the partnerships?
Yeah, so whenever we have a partner, we do a joint venture agreement. We also
Joint
keep
venture?
open books.
Is that what's called, a joint venture agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
You can also open an LLC for each property, and everybody involved in the deal can be on the LLC or not, depending on how the financing is. Sometimes you want everybody in the LLC, sometimes you don't. If you have a partner that you don't want on the LLC for some reason, the joint venture agreement is good to kind of lay out what you're doing. And again, like I said, we always have open, anyone who's a partner, all bank accounts are open. Everybody can see all money coming in, all money going out. And then I want to touch on execution, because while of course we wanted to work our way towards no partners, at the beginning when you're starting, a lot of times it makes sense to have a partner, whether it's a construction partner, or whatever it is that you feel like you need a little bit more skill in the project on. So I had one client, they bought this property this is how I met him. He bought a property I had listed. He said, I want to turn it was a single story home. He said, I want to turn it into a 2-story. He showed me the plans. Everything looked great. I ran the numbers for him. I mean, he bought it at the right number. You just looked at it and I was like, this is a no-brainer. This is going to make money. So he calls me when he's at plaster phase, and I walk in the house and I was like, oh my God, he ruined the house. The old house had 7-foot ceilings. And instead of taking the second floor off and making a normal height ceiling, he just put the second floor on top of the short ceiling, and they ended up being under 7 feet. And so the value dropped. So, and he was like, what do you mean? I said, well, your plans show, 8-foot ceilings, you have 7-foot ceilings. This is not worth what I told you it was worth anymore. And the construction cost is the same. He just totally messed up the execution, and I made sure he never did that again. But sometimes people don't realize, like you as a real estate agent, like that, when you walk into a new construction home, the ceilings are higher, things like that. So that when you renovate, there are certain things that you need to have. So sometimes in the execution, people can do things that just ruin the value. So you want to make sure that whether it's you or whether it's for a client, that you really have a talk about, how is this getting done? What are the plans? Are you going to follow the plans that you're showing me? They don't always. You can also run into problems. We had a project about 2 years ago. It was the most water I've ever seen in my life. It was a new construction home. It felt like there was like a river under the house. Like you were in the basement and you could just hear the water rushing. We ended up spending $80,000 on water mitigation for all the different things that we had to do to mitigate the water in that house. That property, now we found out recently, is now in a flood zone. It was not when we built the home. But we had no idea that there was so much water there until we got into it. And sometimes that happens, which is why if you have capital, always keep a nest egg, because on that project, we spent way more than what we planned on because there was something underground that we just couldn't see until we were into it. And then we had to take care of it because we couldn't resell the house without addressing the problem. So not only did we spend an extra $80,000 mitigating the water, but because it sounded like you were in a spa when you were in the basement because of all the pumps and everything we had to put in, it also didn't end up selling for as much as it should have. So we took a few hits there, and that happens. They're not all going to be home runs. So you don't want to do one flip and like kind of, hold your hat on it. Sometimes they're going to be great. You're going to make more than you thought. Sometimes they're not going to be so great and you'll make less than you thought. That's just part of how it goes. So you have to kind of separate yourself from, as long as you always want to try not to lose money. But sometimes you won't make as much as you thought. Another thing when you're new, again, why it's important to bring in partners is because people will take advantage of you if you're green. Think about if you are you're writing an offer on a listing and you can tell that the other agent just got their license yesterday. and they have no idea what they're doing. And you can get them to agree to stuff that no other agent would agree to. You're going to do it for your client, right? Because why not? Because they're agreeing. And the same thing will happen to you in construction. So you want to make sure that you have experienced people around you that can help you. We have one of our agents right now, he's doing his first flip. And there's definitely been some of that. There have been some issues that have come up, and, and I'm talking him through it. I'm like, look, you need to tell these guys this is what they need to do. And then he tells me the excuses they give him. And I'm like, they're telling you that because they know you're green and you're new, and they need to know that you're not going to accept that as an answer. And that just comes with experience. Because one of the investors I had, he was very hands off. And I would go to his projects and I would look around and I would be like, why is this here? Why is it, things were just a lot of times not right. And I would say, did you talk to your HVAC guy? And he'd be like, oh, he knows what he's doing. I'm like, no, well, he does, but he's doing what's easy for him. He's not doing what's right for the house. So we have this saying, no, I'm going to tone it down a little bit. Nobody gives a shit. You can imagine what the real word is. Nobody gives a shit about your house, about your flip. And if they think that you don't care, they most certainly won't care. One of his contractors put a vanity in that you can't open the drawer. It hits the trim. Like, they literally just put that in, installed it, and you can't open, and then they leave and walk away. And people, especially if you're doing a flip, people will be sloppy. People will do things. And when you see flips, that this is the quality of work that you see. And if they think you don't care, that's just what they'll do. So as an investor, as being involved in these projects, you have to make sure that they know what's okay and what's not okay. I think for us being in construction and working on client homes, like, if you do work like that, you do not get paid. Nobody's going to pay you. They're going to be like, are you kidding me? I'm not paying you for this. This looks like crap. So maybe just from that, we just don't accept that level of work. And all of our guys know. You have to build a good team that knows what you expect. I had one of our projects I walked into. I saw the bathroom wall. It was newly plastered, and it was not smooth. It looked like crap. And I said, oh, I got to call the plaster guy back here. My painter behind me said I already called him because I knew the second you saw that you were going to tell me I had to fix it. So our team, like, I didn't even have to do anything. They already knew when they saw that, oh, Susan's not going to be happy about that. I better call him and tell him to get back here, because that's not going to be okay. We had one of our electricians put an outlet in one of our flips in like this really like weird spot. And, when I told him, I said, look, that needs to move. And he goes, oh, who cares? It's a flip. I said, well, I care. I go, it's not staying like that. So you have to make sure that they know that what's okay for you and what's not okay, because they're going to follow your lead. If you don't set a level of what's okay, they're just going to do what's easy for them. And then they'll do this. Oh, I did that because the electrician did that, because the HVAC guy did that. And if they think that you don't care, they most certainly won't. We had one of our framing crews that was a new construction house we were selling, so there was no client. I asked them to vault the ceiling in the master bedroom. I came back. They did not vault the ceiling in the master bedroom. And trying to be nice, I said, okay, I did a different ceiling design, left it alone. The next house we did, they did the same thing. I told them to vault the ceiling. They did not. I made them rip the whole ceiling out. And they were like, are you kidding? You want us to rip the ceiling out? I said, yeah. I said, I told you, this is the second house. I told you to vault the ceiling. I go, and you didn't. So now we're going to rip the whole ceiling out. And they have never done that again, ever. Now every house, they call me. You want a high ceiling, right? I'm like, yes, I do. They remember now, right? So the first time they didn't remember because I let them get away with it. But now they remember quite a bit. If you want to get started in flipping, I would start just like anything else you learn, start digging in, running numbers. No amount of research is going to remove all the risk. A lot of these things you're going to learn as you go. A lot of times you're going to, you might read something, you might learn something, but it doesn't really hit you until it happens. So just like anything else, once you dig in and get started, you're going to start learning more. Research your financing options. When we did our first one, we did not. We thought we had enough of a down payment, and we didn't. So having that kind of lined up, knowing what you need, talking to investors, networking, figuring out where you're going to get the capital. And again, even if you have the capital, maybe it makes sense to split that capital into 2 projects and get some good partners on. Because taking all your capital and doing a project, if it doesn't turn out well, you could lose some of that money. Whereas if you take that capital and split it and bring some good partners on, you probably will end up making a bigger profit because you have more experienced people on there to help you kind of guide you through. So that was, I'm going to stop blabbing now. That was the end of my blab. What questions or anything else that people are thinking about more from the real estate agent side or from getting into investing?
I have a question, Susan. Is there ever a time where you purchase something to rent it versus flipping it?
Yeah, so we did. I love doing construction. So every time I say my next purchase is going to be a rental, it's not. So we did have some rental property. We sold it. Right now we don't have any, but we are going to buy at least 1 or 2 this year. And that's another thing that I kind of kick myself for, because I'm like, oh, it's on my vision board this year. I'm like, we're doing it because that, that's your retirement. Let the tenants pay the house off. That income never goes away. So definitely buy and hold definitely should be part of the long-term strategy. Anybody else?
Am I going to have to be the one that rents them?
Yes, you get to list all the rentals, Justin, because I'm not listing any rentals.
Susan, like if someone, they're just concerned about selling their next home, or the limiting belief that they have is that they don't have the money.
Yeah.
What is a clever way to still, because, like we come across great opportunities all the time. Like, and the crazy thing to me is that agents will be like, this is such a great flip opportunity. Someone should do this.
Right.
But like, think about the investors. I literally get text messages, spam text messages every single day. Hey, do you have any flips for me? Do you have any flips for me? Why? Because if you flip that property based on where you live, like, you yourself might make your 3% or 2% or whatever, but the flipper's going to make
10
50,
times.
20, 30%. And so like, why give that away? Why pass on an opportunity when you yourself could be the person that does it? And even if you say, well, I have no money, that's okay. There's plenty of money to go around for those great opportunities, right? You can say, hey, listen, I'm going to do this, that. I'm going to find the flip. I'll sell the flip. I even know what to do, but I don't have the funds. And then you can get a partner to be able to help support you in that aspect of it. So don't feel like this limiting belief that you don't have the money to do it. And most certainly, if you don't have the money and you don't have the wherewithal or the know-how to do it, then shadow someone that is currently doing it. Walk them through the whole process. Be their little person that goes and picks up something from Home Depot, right? Like, help them any way you possibly can, because that knowledge is invaluable. I think agents have like this mindset, well, I'm not going to do it if I don't make money. Well, you may be doing it for education, and that's just as good, right? In the very beginning. So go help someone, because you flip a home wrong and you negative money on that transaction. And people have done that. I know I've flipped countless homes in the last 15 years, and I've never lost money in a house. The least I've made is like 15 grand. The most I've made is, I think it's like $190,000 in one flip. And so sometimes you have the winners, sometimes you have just the basics, and you make some just in the middle. But the whole point is, like, don't be afraid to spend some time learning instead of just thinking about the money initially, because those mistakes are worth, like, they're a lot of money. They could be worth a lot of money. So what are the pitfalls to avoid, Susan? Like,
What are you saying? Sorry, I missed it.
well, like, what are some of the pitfalls to avoid? Like, how can someone, what's the, how do you evaluate the property? Just for simple math, if the home is for sale for 500,000,
Yeah.
what should you expect to put into it? Assuming that you don't have the same restrictions that you guys do in your area.
Yeah.
Then what should be the the value when it's all done?
So I don't base it off what the like that 500,000. I always start at the end. I always start at like, okay, what, because you might have two identical houses and one's 500 and one's 550, but maybe the 550 already has a new roof and new windows and a new heating system. And the 500 has a leaking roof and, windows are rotting and, the AC or heat is about to blow up. Obviously that's real money. So I always start at the end of like, what is this going to be worth when it's redone? Like this one that we're doing right now, resale is probably going to be about 1.8 million. And then I'm looking at the project. Okay, what does it need to get that 1.8 million? Here's all the work we have to do. It's probably going to cost us about 600,000 to do all this work. So then I'm going to take that off the 1.8 million. And then I'm going to take off, depending on how you're financing it, I'm going to take off closing costs, both when you buy and when you sell, the commission, and then soft costs, which is going to be like permit fees, drawings, engineering, anything like that. I mean, we're doing a bigger project, but if you were doing even just a smaller flip, you probably don't have bigger costs like that. And then what's the profit that you want to make? And then once I deduct all those, we're looking at what's our maximum offer. For us, typically profit, we want a minimum of 10% of resale. So in a 1.8 million, we want a minimum of 180, but typically at those price ranges, it's higher. So it just depends on the project. And then sometimes on a smaller project, you can make a higher percentage. So like on a house that you buy maybe in the fives, you can maybe make, 80,000. I think the one that one of our agents is working on right now, he's projected to make, I think 60 or 70,000, and he paid like 550 for it. And it was a very light flip. He just did kitchen, bathrooms, refinishing flooring, painting, very cosmetic. Nothing crazy. So, I mean, I think if you find something that's a good deal, if you're nervous to do it yourself, find investors and get that front seat, because that's how you're going to learn. You're going to watch them. You're going to be able to tell them, what the house needs. You're going to be able to learn about construction costs. You're going to be able to learn about timing. One thing about construction, everybody always asks, how long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost? And my answer is always the same. It's going to take too long and it's going to cost too much. So whatever you think for timing, like he had told me initially he was going to turn this thing around in 6 weeks. And I was like, no, you're not, but okay. And then when I looked at it in October, he said, I'm getting this in the market at the end of the month. And I said, no, you're November minimum. I could just, after a certain period of time, you look at it and I said, this is not going to work. We're going on the market December 1st, needless to say. But those are just things that you learn. So whatever you estimate for time, always just make sure you have a cushion, because things, you don't know what's going to come up, but something's going to come up. Something's going to happen. Something's going to cost a little extra. Something's going to take a little longer. So I always account for something going wrong, but it's really, that's just part of construction. Somebody's going to not be able to make it the day they say they're going to come. Somebody's, something's going to take longer. It's just always the way.
Anyone else have any questions for Susan?
I have a question. So you mentioned it's possible not to use the hard money loans, to use banks. What banks do you recommend?
So for us, we use small local banks in our area, and it's a construction loan, but it's not the type of construction loan that you think about, like when a homeowner is going to do a construction loan. These are commercial construction loans. So they're more based on the property. They want to see obviously that minimum equity at the end. So for us, it's, those small local regional banks that might have, 2 to 10 locations in your area. A lot of times, because they have more flexibility with portfolio loans, they'll do small commercial lending. And your interest rate will be way lower than hard money.
What is hard money interest nowadays?
Oh, go ahead, Nazar. What did you say?
What's the hard money interest rates nowadays in your area?
I don't even know, but it's got to be like 12 to 14%. Whereas with the bank we're doing right now, I think we're at prime plus 2, and we can lock with them. With this last one, we did not, because we knew rates were going to come down. So we floated with the prime rate. I mean, we had one when the rates were going up, we had a construction loan locked at 5%. And the people who bought the house, their mortgage rate was higher than what we had at a construction loan. But I think our last one was around, I think it topped out at 8% for the one that we're doing right now, and that will float down with the prime rate. A lot of times they're tied to prime.
Yeah, prime's right now at 7. So, I mean, even if you're paying 9, it's better than 12 or 14. So
Yeah, and maybe it's prime plus 1 then, because I don't think we're at 9. But I have to look. I don't know. I just pay the mortgage when it comes in.
Yeah. All right.
Do you, I have a quick question, sorry. Do you hire a general to maintain everything, or do you do it yourself?
So I'm a licensed general contractor, and so is my husband. But I would recommend that if you need to hire a general contractor, and especially if you're starting out, I would probably partner with one.
Hey, Susan.
Yep.
It's Linda again. Hi. In the beginning, when you're new in this process and you weren't the licensed general contractor, would you take your GC to walk a property to put his eyes on it? And let you know how much this would cost or what he would recommend to do, and have a GC walk the property?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Because the last thing you want to do is underestimate construction.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Lots of good questions here. Anyone else have any thoughts or questions about how to flip property, how to be part of it? And listen, at the end of the day, if you feel like you can't and you don't know how, then again, partner with somebody that can. And then also, you don't have to like be the person that makes all the money, right? You can say, hey, listen, I'm going to be a partner in this. I'll the deal to you, but I want more than just the 2% or the 3%, right? I want to make X. And if the deal is good enough and you know it is, then you'll find someone that's going to be willing to do that. Or someone that will take you under their wing and give you more than just, the listing and the buying side. And then you get that knowledge that you're looking for. Like, start small and don't take on a home that needs like massive construction. You can take on something that just needs cosmetic. And so there's less surprises that come up in those types of things. And then really get really good at like going and looking, seeing what's out there. Here's the last question for you that I have is, when I would do all my flips, I try to keep things as vanilla as possible, as simple as possible, so that, not simple, but like everything that I feel like the masses would like. But then I've seen some flippers that will do the crazy colors, the very bold, backsplashes and whatever else. And when I look at that, I'm like, dang, you're like cutting off half of your buyer pool by doing something crazy like that. So, but then, some of them like have crushed it because it's so unique and different that people like are drawn to it. So what are your thoughts on flipping a home and doing something crazy versus keeping it more neutral?
So I hate vanilla. I just hate it. So so I look at my flips and my projects that they're my blank canvas. You will never see a white and navy kitchen, and a kitchen that I have full control over. Probably for my client. I tell everyone, if you ever see a white and blue kitchen, it was definitely a client project. It wasn't one of my flips. I mean, we have had success with it. It actually has also, being able to do unique designs also actually boosts our construction company, because in real estate, because we have people who come to us and say, we don't know if we want to move, we don't know if we want to build, we don't know if we want to renovate, help us figure it out, or we just bought this house and how do we make it look good? So so like this agent who just did his first flip, he was going to do in the bathrooms a white vanity, white floor, with like just white everything. And I was like, oh no, please don't do that. So I helped him with like a floor design. We ended up doing some checker designs and some things that are still pretty neutral, but also show some personality. So for me, I think about a home buyer who wants to buy a home that's new or newer. They're looking at Pinterest, they're looking at Instagram. Like, I feel like that's what they want. And while a certain design might not be for everyone, the people who are drawn to it, they're going to be drawn to it more than a vanilla design, than just a vanilla color. So I think it helps to be unique, because then you stand out from the other homes that are being flipped and the other new homes. Like, our new homes sell faster than other homes in our community. Like, people ask for our homes, they know them. We had our last one, the market was kind of down a little bit. There were several new houses sitting on the market. Ours sold in 2 weeks. I mean, we literally had the other builders calling us going, we got 3 offers, and the market was pretty slow. I don't know. So for us, it has done well with us, both when we're selling, and it brings us more construction clients. So,
if I may, this isn't a flip. This is actually my personal home that I'm selling. I want to get your feedback, Susan, on this wild thing I did. So this is my house that I'm
yeah,
see my screen.
yeah,
So the inside's pretty vanilla,
yeah,
right? It's very, we didn't do anything wild or crazy with the colors. You know, even the kitchen is just very vanilla, I
yeah,
can say.
yeah.
However,
Everything's white.
everything's white, nice and tidy. But I will show you upstairs. Well, I did do some color in the master, so there you go. But I want to show you the upstairs, and my ex-wife hated it. Can you guys see that lovely pop of color
Yeah.
there? And I've had so many people tell me that they hate it, but what are your thoughts? Should I have oh, there you go. There's the photo I was looking for. Okay, so should I have taken that tile down and put something else?
No, absolutely not. No, that's a movie room. That's so fun. Yeah. I mean, you've seen my house. You know, I have like bright green tile in my, I have all kinds of colors everywhere. My kitchen is green. I don't think I have one white cabinet in my house. But I think, I don't know. I think for us, adding some personality, I think it can help you stand out. Now, you have to be careful though, because sometimes it's, you can go the wrong way with color, and you can go the wrong way with design. So definitely, I would say consult with your real estate agents about about how far it is too far.
I would say go to, like, if you guys have new construction, go preview those, go look at model homes if you guys have those, or parade homes, or whatever's in your area, and see what other designers are doing, and then kind of stay within that lane, because if you do go too wild, that will absolutely deter buyers, and you don't want that either. So
Right. Yeah, I've had other agents come into my house and the houses and say, I would not have picked that tile. And I'm like, well, the house isn't for you. You don't have to buy it. It's okay.
Well,
But then the people who see it and like it, like, they don't like it, they love it because it's unique.
Yeah.
right.
that's one of the things I was going to say, Susan. We're in an area that we have a lot of brand new construction because we were a small area and it's exploding, but they're all cookie cutter and they're all vanilla. And so
Right.
the houses that you do, I mean, like when builders down here do that kind of thing, they go fast because people don't want the same house as everyone else.
Right. And when they buy the vanilla, they're thinking, oh, I have to add color. I have to do, like, they're just
Exactly.
thinking about everything that it's going to cost them to make it look like their Instagram feed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who are you trying to attract, because when you do walk into those homes that are very bold, not in a good way, it deters a lot of people. So it's a risk that you take, but sometimes those risks pay off, because you end up people that say, oh my gosh, this is absolutely stunning, I have to buy this house. So
Yeah. Our very first one that we bought for $165,000, I did, now this is 2014, I did a dark stain on the floors, and one of our partners called me and he said, Susan, we have a problem. I go, what's the problem? He goes, these floors, he's like, they're almost black. I go, yeah, they're supposed to be. And he was like, oh, they are? I was like, yeah. He was like, oh. And so he was, so from the very first one, I was scaring people. So, but it worked out. It's so far, so good.
yeah, well, it matches your personality, so that makes sense. Hey guys, well, thank you so much for being on here. If you have any questions, please, feel free to reach out to Susan. She's always willing to share. Love.
Hi, Susan. I'm sorry about that. Can you share your email or contact
Sure,
phone
yeah.
number?
I'll drop it in the chat.
Thank you.
We'll give it another second for her to do that, and then we'll go ahead and end. There we go. Susan at CadillacRealtyGroup.com. Oh, look at that. She gives her cell phone number too. What?
Will I answer though? Maybe. But I will call you back if I don't answer.
She loves spam texts. So if you get an opportunity to, send her that'd be awesome.
My
Hey
favorite.
guys, have an amazing week. We will not have a masterclass next week because it's Thanksgiving. Wish you guys an amazing time with family and friends and all that other stuff, and we'll pick it back up in 2 weeks. Otherwise, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Susan.
Thanks, Cynthia.